Good morning, pre-algebra. We are going to be looking at calculating percent change today and also reviewing the quiz. So let's look at objectives for the day. This is February 19th, 2016. So by the end of the day, the goal is that you will understand all the problems you missed on the quiz. Given two values, you will be able to accurately identify the percent increase or decrease. Given two values, you will be able to calculate the percent of change. Given the original value and the percent increase or decrease, you will be able to calculate the new value. And finally, if you are given the current value and the percent increase or decrease, you will be able to calculate the original value. So we're going to come back and ask ourselves those questions at the end of this video. For the video, this isn't so important, but we're just looking at the agenda for the day, what we'll be doing, and what you'll be working on in each of the different stations. So let's move on to homework and other important dates. Due Tuesday the 23rd, I want you to have your IXL account all the way set up. Due Monday the 29th, the following IXL activities: J1, 4, 9, and 11, Chapter 6 vocabulary, and the first of the 3 scale project items is due. There will also be the test on Chapter 6 is the 29th. On Thursday, the 25th, there will be a short quiz covering the material that we're going to start looking at today, sections 6.5 to 6.7. And then the second of the third of the 3 scale project items is due on the 4th of March. The final item is due on the 10th, and on the 14th, the mathematician presentations are due, and that's due on or before the 14th. Alright, so let's look at the quiz and see how we did with that. So the first question wanted you to put in order a series of fractions, percent, decimal numbers. So anytime we want to put something in order, we need to convert them to the same format. Now, I find it easiest to compare them and line them up either if we put them all in terms of percent or decimal. Comparing fractions can be a little bit tricky because the denominators are going to be different. So let's look, if we take -half and we convert that to a decimal, what we do is we punch in your calculator. We were allowed to use calculators on this, so you do 1 divided by 2. That gives you an answer of 0.5. Don't forget the negative sign. A couple people seem to have forgot the negative sign, and that put these first 2 out of order. They were meant to be pretty easy, as they were the only 2 negative numbers. Another area where we saw some problem was with 1/3 and 33%. Okay? 1 divided by 3 is 0.33333, repeating forever. 33% is 0.33. They are not equivalent. If they were the same number, it would be 33.333% with a repeating line over top of the 3's. And again, 7 divided by 8 gives us 0.875. 15 divided by 16. I just wrote 0.9 ... because I don't really care what comes after the 0.9. 0.9 tells me enough to know where to place it in sequence with the other decimals. 0.6 and then 88% equals 0.88. Looking at number 2, 46% of the crayons in the box have been used. What fraction? So we have 46%. Anytime you see 46%, remember, percentage compares a number in relation to 100. So if we have 46%, think of 46 over 100 is how you would write that as a fraction. And we reduce that now. 46 to 100 is not in simplest terms. So that evaluates to 23 over 50. Anytime you are writing fractions, you must reduce them to their lowest terms. Number 3, find the following percents. For each of these, we're going to follow the same format. If you look at it, it's already kind of given to you in terms of an equation. So we're going to solve them that way. 43% if we convert that to a decimal, is 0.43. Of, when we look at the word of, it equates to a multiplication symbol. So 0.43 times 6 equals, and that's our answer. We get 2.58. Now, you could also set this up as a proportion if you like. We can look at that for the next one. It says 94%. Remember, 94% equals 94 over 100. We want to set that equivalent to, what is 94% of 23? So we're going to do 94 over 100 equals x over 23. And when we cross multiply to solve, you'll get 21.62. And again, the next one equates to 16.56. Number 4. Survey asked 180 people if they like winter. 45 said yes. What percent liked winter? So we're going to set up, I'm going to set this one up as a proportion. We have 45 people said yes. There was a total of 180 people. So we're comparing 45 to 80. We want to find what percentage. Remember, what percentage? We always compare to 100, so x over 100. And when we do our cross multiplication and we solve for x, we have x equals 25%. The Reed family bought a case of apples. Paula ate 3/10 of the apples. 3/10, written as a decimal, is 0.30, or written as percentage is 30%. Kyle ate 21%, so we have 30% and 21%. And then Wendy ate 0.34 of the apples. 0.34 is 34%. So if we add 30%, 21%, and 34%, that equals 85%. Remember, when we talk about percentages, it's all about 100. So we need, if we're talking about eating all of the apples, we need to subtract that 85% from 100%. That gives us with 15% left, which is how many apples Ron ate. The East Side Trail is 20 miles long. This is 140% as long as the West Side Trail. Find the length. So we're comparing the East Side Trail to the West Side Trail. So we'll set up a proportion, 20 miles long for the East Side over the West Side, which is x. Now, it says it's 140% as long. So 140 over 100. Now, before we answer this question, you want to think through this. If the East Side Trail is 140% as long as the West Side, which trail is going to be longer? Okay, if something is more than 100% of something else, it's going to be bigger. So that means our answer should be less than 20. So we cross multiply with 20 times 100 divided by 140. Gives us 14.28, so approximately 14 miles long. Let's look at a couple more here. Number 7. 23 is 14.9% of what number? Again, this is already written out in a sentence, so we're going to look at it in terms of an equation. 23 is. Is represents an equal sign, so we say 23 equals, and then 14.9%. 14.9% would equal 0.149 as a decimal. So we have 23 equals 0.149. And then it says of what number? So of x, or of n. Of is multiplication. So we have 23 equals 0.149 times n. And then we're going to use our algebra and solve for n for an answer of 154. You're going to follow the same process for the next one. 42 equals 0.83 times x, or times n, with an answer of 51. Number 8, the yearly cost of tuition, room, and board at Florida State University for non-Florida residents is $23,196. So this is the total cost covering tuition, room, and board. tuition, it says, is $16,340. The question asks, what percent of the yearly total cost is the tuition? So for this one, we're just going to compare. We have our tuition cost, $16,340, divided by $23,196, which is our total, and then we'll multiply. That's going to give us a decimal number, 0.704. We multiply by 100 to get our percentage. Lisa's starting pay was $8.50 per hour. After 8 months, she was given a 6% increase. How much per hour was Lisa's raise? So another way to phrase this is, what is 6% of $8.50? 6%, so we have 0.06 of multiplication, $8.50. So we have 0.06 times $8.50 gives us 51 cents. Notice we don't want the ending salary or the ending pay. We want how much was the increase or how much was the raise itself. Number 10, at football practice, Ty made 24 field goals, which was 80% of the field goals he attempted. How many did he attempt? So again, we've got our ratio that's comparing field goals, 24 over some unknown number. So 24 over x. We're going to set that in proportion to 80% because these two numbers, these two ratios are equivalent. 80% as a ratio is 80 over 100. So when we cross multiply and solve, we come out with 30 field goals that were attempted. As we end up our quiz review, Jackie spends 25% of her salary on rent. Her rent is $650 a month. What is Jackie's monthly salary? So again, we're going to start with a proportion. 25% is our first ratio. 25% equals 25 over 100. And again, anytime you see a percentage, 25 over, it's the number over 100. So that percent sign, you can just get rid of the percent sign and say divided by or over 100. Equals, and then we're comparing her rent to her monthly salary. Which one's going to be bigger? We want to compare them in that order. So 25 over 100 equals 650 over x. Again, you cross multiply and solve that proportion for x, and you come out with 2600. The last one, Washington Heights School, 84 8th graders, which is 8% of the school's enrollment. So we want, again, the total students. So we had 84 8th graders over how many total students? Equals 8%, which is 8 over 100. And that evaluates to 1,050 students. All right, that wraps up our review of the quiz. So hopefully I answered all your questions. If you still are unclear, please come and talk to me about that. Next, we're going to move into some new things. We want to look at the following percentages. So let's say I'm starting with a value of 10 and I'm moving from 10 to 15. Is that going to be an increase or a decrease? Good. It's an increase. We start with a smaller number and we end with a larger number. What about if we move from 16 to 12? Increase or decrease? Decrease. Good. And now we see in number 3, we're moving from 8 to 14. We also have an increase. So, very simply, do these numbers represent an increase or a decrease? Now, we looked at, do they, just looking at our starting number and our ending number, identifying, is it an increase or decrease? That's our first step, because we need to know what the increase or decrease is. Now, when we look at percent increase or percent decrease to the nearest percent, how do we figure that out? What we need to do, if you remember from the video you watched, is you look at the amount of change. So how much did I change from our first number to our second number? So if we look at from 2 to 5, what's the change there? Okay, that would be 3. It would be a change of 5 because we have 5 minus 2. And now remember, to determine percent of change, we look at the amount of change, which in this case would be 3, and we divide that by the original value. So 3 divided by 2. And that value is 1.5. And if we want to write that as a percent, remember we need to multiply by 100. So it's 150%. All right, and you're going to follow that same example for number 5 and 6 there. You know, we want to look at the percent. First off, is it an increase or a decrease? From 10 to 6, we have a decrease. Now, what's the difference? What's the amount of change? We have from 10 to 6, we have a change of 4. So we're going to divide 4 by our original number, which is 10. That gives us 0.4 as a percentage. It's a 40%. So 0.4 times 100 gives us our percentage. So it would be 40%. And this is a 40% decrease. Let's look at a word problem here. World Toys buys bicycles for $38 and sells them for $95. What is the percent increase in the price? So again, the first step, we need to look at what is the amount of change. So we have 95 minus 38, which gives us a change of $57. So they bought them for $38, they marked them up $57, and that's our increase amount. Now to find the percent of increase, we take that 57, we divide by the original, and again we'll see that we have 1.5 written as a percent, we have 150%. Alright, we're going to follow a similar process here. If Jack bought a stereo on sale for $231, the original price was $385. What was the percent of decrease? Again, our first step is what is the amount of change? So we're going to do 385 and we're going to subtract 231. That gives us a change of $154. Now we take the amount of change, we divide by the original price. The original price was $385. That gives us 0.4, which we evaluate, we multiply by 100 for 40%. So the percent of change is 40%. And now we need to, again, we need to determine, was it a decrease or an increase? Obviously, in this case, it was on sale. The new price was less than the original price, so we have a 40% decrease in price. So now we want to look at a couple more examples here, looking at finding missing numbers. Let's say our original price was $300. Our new price is $450. How do we solve that problem? What is the percent increase? So again, first step, find the difference. $450 minus $300. We have a difference of $150. And now we're going to divide by the original number, the original amount. So you'll see that for that one, for number 7, we have a 50% increase. So go ahead and take a minute, see if you can figure out the rest of those answers. And we're going to look at a couple more here. Let's look at the same sort of question in terms of a word problem. Let's say a store owner purchases 40 shirts for $600. Okay, so 40 shirts for $600. She then adds 40% to her cost and tags each shirt with the same selling price. What is the amount of profit for each shirt? So let's look at a 40%. So we need to find out what is a 40% profit. Alright, so you're going to want to set up an equation for this one. And first off, $600. Remember when we solved this before, we would look at the difference, we would find the difference, and then we would arrive at our percent. Now we're given our percentage. So 600 proportion to, we're going to add 40% to her cost. So what is 40% of 600? So 600 times 0.4 equals $240. So the percent increase is $240. So she's going to sell her shirts for 600 plus 240, which gives us a sale price. So all 40 shirts will be a total sale price of $840. Now, what is the amount of profit for each shirt? So what we need to look at then is we need to divide 840 divided by 40. So each shirt sold for $21. So let's remember that number, $21. Now, that's how much each shirt sells for. If we look at our original price of $600 and we divide that by 40 shirts, she paid $15 for each shirt. If she paid $15 for each shirt and sold them for $21, her profit for each shirt was $6. So let's look at how we did. Do you understand the problems that you missed on the quiz? If you are given two values, are you able to accurately identify percent increase or decrease? If you are given two values, are you able to calculate the percent of change? If you are given the original value and the percent increase or decrease, are you able to calculate the new value? And finally, if you are given the current value and the percent increase or decrease, are you able to calculate the original value? Thanks, and have a good day.